Hi, I'm Darren Birch with FRN, and I'm here live at AUSA, the expo in the heart of our country, Washington, D.C. And I'm so absolutely delighted and privileged to be joined by Patrol Agent Paul Fisher. Agent Fisher, first of all, thank you for what you do, keeping our country safe at the border, but also thank you for joining us here at AUSA.
Of course, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
You know, I had the absolute honor to talk with you a little bit. I know a little bit about your history, which I found absolutely fascinating because I think it helps humanize the badge when you talk about who was that raised their hand and said, "I want to commit something, a greater service to the community." You know, I think that's important. So, if you could talk a little bit about yourself and what brought you to raise your hand and make that commitment.
Yes, sir. So just early on in life, I've always had kind of a servant mindset. That's just always been kind of a part of me and what I've been about. Just kind of cruising through life in a few different things, going to college, working in churches. After that, continuing with that kind of servant mindset. Then I got to be able to travel with some bands, some music bands around the country and around the globe, really, in that servant capacity. Always just kind of with that mindset of helping others, and there's always something bigger than myself. Correct. So that's always just been a thing. It just was a smooth transition and a kind of unique position in life when I was able to switch over to government service. Something I've always wanted to kind of do since I was a young kid. I just always felt that America has just been such a beacon, and so I just really wanted to be a part of something more. I didn't really see myself in the military just because of who I am and what I am about, and so the Border Patrol was a way that I could serve my country in a capacity with some of the skills that I had from outside of the government to bring in and hopefully make a good career out of it.
I love that. I love the idea that it's about helping a commitment, but I also love the fact that you talk about what a great country we have here, and that kind of goes into my next question in regards to the border. These folks that are coming across the border are trying to come to a better situation, a better country than what they're leaving, and sometimes it's oppressive, sometimes it's downright lethal. So I love the idea that you kind of, it seems like the right fit. On top of that, there's other job duties at the Border Patrol. It's not all about watching, the border. I think we all learned that with Uvalde. Sadly, that tragedy and a horrible response to a tragedy. But it was the BORTAC. If you could talk a little bit about them, and that actually finally, said, okay, we're going in. And it kind of, I think, introduced the nation, if not the world, to there's other things that the border patrol agents do in terms of keeping our community safe.
Yes, sir. I have great respect for the BORTAC team and BOR team. That's our search and rescue and trauma team as well. The BORTAC guys and gals, they are just a unique force. They have skills and training above and beyond any Border Patrol agent, and most law enforcement agencies. They're at the top tier as far as what they can do, and the tools that they have, and just the unique abilities that they train all the time. Just a constant training cycle for those guys, and then their response is just unheard of. They get in and they handle business. Again, they're humans, and they're going in to usually help. That's primarily what they're there to do, but they just have great tactical ability. They have great hearts, to serve, and they're just going in there to do what's right and what's best. So not a lot of hesitation from those guys.
Yeah, I love what they did. And again, I think it was a wake up call for a lot of people to realize there's a lot of job responsibilities there at the border. And on top of that, you partnership. You guys, go with the FBI, the DEA. You respond to emergencies. Can you kind of talk about some of those other job duties, to include forensics and intel?
Yeah, the Border Patrol, like I said when we kind of talked on the phone earlier, that we just have so many opportunities compared to a lot of other agencies. Like you said, we work with the FBI, we work with DEA, we work with ATF, and amongst many other local agencies as well. And we have the intel units that do all kinds of secret squirrel stuff. Obviously, to horse, we have horse patrol They ride on the beach. They do, anywhere from enforcement to even parades and things. So there's community engagement with those guys as well. ATV units, motorcycle unit, like dirt bike units. We even have a couple Harleys that do some parade stuff. They help out at Police Week and do some other kind of ceremonial things as well. All the way to we do have a lab, so to speak, now, a forensic lab within the Border Patrol, which is kind of new for us. And just, the ability to be able to move around the country and do training in different places and meet different people and kind of see, even though we are one patrol from, Washington to Maine to Florida to San Diego, where I'm at, it's a different patrol. It's localized. There's regional kind of nuances within the Border Patrol that make it unique and make it a cool place to be able to kind of move around and see different things.
Listening to you and the excitement as you talk about the job, I can't even imagine how good you are as a peer support coordinator, because you're excellent at recruitment. Because I'm ready to join. um, let's go back to the border, because we talked about the humanitarian aspect in terms of we have such a great country here. There's so many people all around the world wanting to come to America, but on top of that, you also have the criminal element. So there is that danger element, and you're dealing with a cartel, a very dangerous entity. Can you talk a little bit about the dangers as it relates to both human trafficking and drugs?
Yeah, I mean, we have both. On the Border Patrol side of the house, mainly the interstates are used for drug trafficking. And then the ports, the guys in blue uniforms, the OFO side, they do a lot of our drug interdiction, coming in vehicles, coming through with people. Out in the desert, we catch a decent amount, but definitely more through the vehicle entries is where that kind of stuff comes from. As far as the dangers go, I mean, simply just, the desert in the summertime is unbelievably treacherous, right? Just the heat that those guys go through, the lack of water, lack of supplies that they're out there, kind of coming across with. Even in the mountains of San Diego in the wintertime, we have snow, and so coming across in the wintertime can be a danger as well, just because of the temperatures, and they're completely unprepared. Smugglers have, little to no disregard for getting their guys across. And once they're across, they're sometimes free to be kind of on their own and figure it out. So cell phones, even since I've been in 15 years, has kind of changed. It used to be, two-way, like walkie-talkie style radios. Smugglers would guide from the south side, to the north side to get them, where they needed to go. Now with cell phones, it's created, just some more, I'm going to say, creativity in how they get across and how they smuggle. But again, always dangerous, right? Because they're getting in vehicles that, they don't know who is driving. They don't know the condition, of roads and temperatures and just where they're at. Sometimes, a lot of times, they have no idea where they're at. They've never been here before. So just that on top of everything else, and wherever they're leaving from, and just whether they're just trying to better themselves, if they're trying to escape from something. And just the competition on the south side as well. The cartels, wanting to funnel and make money, because in the end, right, that's the bottom line for them, is just that dollar bill. And so they're willing to put lives at risk because it's not their risk. It's just a commodity, basically, is how they treat them. So it's just super, like, it's just always evolving too. I know that from the time that I started, $1,500 in San Diego was pretty, like, average going rate. Now up to $5,000 to $7,000, or
Wow.
more.
For the
So
human
just
trafficking.
yeah, we've really seen the increase as far as the more that we're able to catch and the more that we're able to apprehend, the more that price goes up. So we're kind of driving up their business, so to speak, just because we're getting better at what we do.
Wow. When you talk about the humanitarian effect of the hostile or hospitable environment of a desert, and I know on TV I've
Mhm.
seen, in fact, we had a National Guard guardsmen that drowned,
Mhm.
and then we're seeing these like migrants that are, again, leaving some, dangerous situation where they're literally risking their lives to cross that river. But I wasn't aware that there was dangers other than the desert, if you will, in San Diego, and you kind of shared something with me that I frankly didn't realize.
Yeah, again, just the temperatures, the just getting lost. East County, San Diego is pretty rough terrain. It's mountainous, and just you can get quickly in the middle of nowhere with no real landmarks. And if you've never been there before, you'd have no idea kind of your direction. So they can get turned around with our Borstar unit, our search and rescue trauma guys. They get a lot of 911 calls. The sheriffs, put them in on a tower and they have to go rescue aliens because their smuggler bailed on them and just kind of left them there to fend for themselves. So, depending on the time of year, that can be a really dangerous situation for those. And I'm not sure what I'm allowed to say anymore, but the people coming across the border.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah. On top of that tragedy on their side of the house, if you will, the
Mm-hmm.
tragedy of the Border Patrol agents seeing this loss of life. And, there's certain things
Yep.
that I believe the human psyche isn't prepared to really witness. And we all deal with it in our own way. But sadly, the job, we see these deaths and we see horrible deaths
Mm-hmm.
with children. And that seems to affect us more than it does. That sometimes that we don't even realize. I can't imagine how difficult your job is with those type of challenges because just
Mm-hmm.
recently we had this unprecedented number in the last year of or fiscal year of 2 million crossings, and that was just the ones you guys processed. That's not the almost a million that were, if you will, documented gotaways, and then that's not even
Mm-hmm.
to include the undocumented unknown gotaways. So when you look
Yep.
at this, everyone has a number from 3 million to 5 million. Regardless, that amount of work for a personnel or staffing that wasn't designed for that, quite frankly. Then the
Yep.
challenges of the dangers that we talked about. Then you talk about the humanitarian aspect of wanting to save these lives and finding them, and then I would just call it PTSI, post-traumatic stress injury, through the collective years. How tough is your job as a peer support coordinator in helping folks through that?
Yeah, on a daily basis, we get phone calls of, guys going through different things, family wise, job wise, outside of job wise. We have a getting older generation, so we also have that aspect of having to start taking care of your parents on top of everything else you're already doing at work. In San Diego, at least for us, that is something that we've been, kind of in the midst of lately. And then, just like you said, just the encounters of just tragedy. It's a hard thing to always kind of say, well, they're just coming here to better themselves, or even the criminals that are coming or whatever. Like, it is a choice that they're making, so there needs to be some kind of onus on them as far as making that journey initially. But then, once they're here and once we have to kind of deal with that, with in San Diego, we have fence falls, other pretty gnarly injuries sometimes from that, or even death. And so our agents are in the middle of those circumstances as well, having to come up on, dead bodies and just that kind of repeated, visual trauma that we have to deal with in our jobs. If you're not really taking care of yourself outside of work, it makes that even harder. One statistic I'll throw out, and we know statistics can be made up, but the average person, Johnny Cubicle is who I like to call the average person, sees 5 to 10 critical incidents in their life. Whereas law enforcement, we see 180 on average critical incidents throughout our careers. So it just wears on you. So, what are you doing in your personal life to kind of take care of yourself and to make sure that when those tragedies come upon, what's your support network? Are you working on that? Is that something that you invest in outside of the job? As much as, a peer support coordinator or a chaplain can do, or a veteran support coordinator can do, you as an individual still have to be on your guard and still have to take care of yourself. You can't just expect someone else to do it for you. And in the end, we're human, right? And so to see those tragedies, it definitely builds up. We call it like cumulative stress. So just that piling on, like one tragedy, two tragedies, you might be able to function pretty well, but maybe that third one, like you said, could be a child, and you might just be a new parent. And so that affects you differently because now, you see your child in that situation, and so those kind of things, guys sometimes are getting it. I think we're in a new kind of phase of law enforcement that, the clinicians, when they come in, everyone doesn't just leave. Now they see the benefit of some of this resiliency. I get a little tired of that word because I think we get beat with it a lot, but just that kind of, I like grit is my kind of word. I even use that with my kids at home, because I don't think a lot of people have it anymore. You watch a John Wayne movie, right? That guy, that was grit,
True
and
grit.
so
True grit.
yeah, I mean that in itself is something that, we really try to emphasize, that, what you, and it's not that you need to grit it out or like just push through and forget, but at the same time you got to like kind of man up, in the sense of, if you need to go talk to somebody, you need to man up and talk to somebody, not man up and go hit the bottle, or go, whatever your vice might be. Those shouldn't be the things you run to, because there are so many resources, in the Border Patrol alone. We have on-site clinicians. We have an employee assistance program, that allows phone calls. We, have, like I said, chaplains and peer support, available locally at their stations that they can reach out to, and get help from. Most of the supervisors, we try to train them so that they can, have some understanding on, hey, this guy's not doing so well. Like, what are my resources, and how can I push him to something that can help him, or her? And so that's a lot of what I try to do, is just make people aware of what's available and what's out there. Uh, the whole reason that you and I are even talking today is simply that, just we're looking for resources and ways that we can get guys connected in different, different aspects to help them, because, everybody needs something different, right, to cope. And so it's not a one size fits all kind of thing. So we got to find a multitude of things that we can put in front and put out, so that, the guys and gals can say, hey, you know what, I feel that, I can kind of side with that, or I can see that, and that'll kind of move them through, so that they can, get up and make sure that they can be safe at work, and have their heads in the game. And I always tell, like, I get to talk to the brand new trainees when they first come in, and I tell them, I say, you know what, my job is not to get you to come to work. I don't care about that. Like, you're an adult, you should show up. But I care that you're a human. I care that you function, that you can leave work and be a productive, kind of member of the community, not just a zombie that has to, hit the bottle and then go to bed. I want you to, have a life, have something outside of the badge. That's super important. A good friend of mine, she's a clinician, Becky. She has a kind of series called Permission to Be Human, and just allowing law enforcement to be human. I think the media and stuff likes to pile on us a lot. And so just that, what, we're people. We take off our uniform when we get home, right? And we have kids, and we're brothers and sisters and husbands and fathers, and all those things, not just a cop, not just somebody that does something bad once in a while. So sorry, I kind of went on a lot, but yeah, it's just that human aspect is so important to me.
I love that. No, you were spot on. I loved how you talked about, the idea of true grit, going to, this job isn't for everyone. There are some people that,
Mm-hmm.
can't, wouldn't handle this. If you have a problem with seeing blood or tragedies, and
Mm-hmm.
this may not be a job for you, but if you can, this is a great job. But to the other side of the coin, you shouldn't grit it out, as you said, and good for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay not to be okay. And to that end, you also talked about, resources. And we just talked
Mm-hmm.
with Dr. Kent Corso, who did a wonderful job in explaining that we're in this for a long haul, unfortunately, as it relates to military and police officer suicides. We're going to always
Mm-hmm.
see these traumas as inherent in the job. So I loved how you connect with folks like that and the other doctor. If there was some advice you would give to someone that is, doesn't know anything about the border, that is thinking about this job, what would you tell them as a new recruit, as a new agent with Border Patrol?
Man, talk to your family. If you're married, talk to your spouse. Talk to your kids, talk to your parents, and really, explain to them what the job is and what it entails, so that they can be supportive of you, Oftentimes I hear guys where, their families might not even support what they do, just from a political belief system. And so that's
Ouch.
super difficult. So you really got to make sure that your family knows what you're doing, and kind of what the job entails, and what it looks like. Too many times, unfortunately, guys really keep their families out of work, and then when they need them, they're not there for them anymore. And
You know,
so,
it's
I encourage guys. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I love the idea as a support, peer support coordinator. You're saying we also need to get that support in the family structure, and
Yep.
how important that is. I cannot thank you enough for not just for being on a show and sharing, what you do and ins and outs and so forth. Because the inside,
Mhm.
I was a cop for 30 years. I have no idea what you guys do in terms of, all the capabilities and what you see. So thank you so much for that interview and enlightening us about the border. There's so many things that even as a 30-year veteran, I didn't know. So thank you so much, and thank you for everything you're doing. Please stay safe. Well, that wraps it up for that interview with Agent Paul Fisher. Make sure you check out FRN and the other live interviews at AUSA.